So we're going to move on to our opinions of The Last of Us HBO's episodes 5 and 6. Before we do start, I did kind of create a little stinger for our little Last of Us chat. So here we go. I'm going to play it real quick. Here you go.
That's cute.
There we go.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So proud of you, Chaz.
It took like 15 minutes. So. Alrighty, so let me... So we're going to move on to episode 5. So this was kind of the finale to the, what was it, Sam and Henry kind of plot line.
Man.
I very much enjoyed this episode.
Oh my god, Phoenix. You were right. I was rooting for them the entire time. You said it in the last time, and you were like, "You're gonna root for them." I was like,
"Well, he did play the game. I mean, I guess he kind of."
I know,
but they weren't in the game. Not Sam, but the I always miss her name. Kathleen. Yeah, like her whole crew was not in the game.
No.
So that was just all a brand new thing.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I mean, I agree. You root for Henry and Will, but I felt not more on Kathleen's side. Henry, Sam. Oh man, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Will. What am I thinking of?
It's getting late.
Yeah, man, it is getting late. Anyways, I appreciate Kathleen's stance a little better, and I don't know that her justification of the argument of, you know, Henry chose Sam's life over her brother's life. Like, how do you really balance that? Like, that was a interesting kind of dynamic that was not in the game. That was not a choice that anybody made. So, I mean, that took me a moment to kind of step back. Like, what is the right choice there? Like, saving the kid, although, I mean, I have a kid, and I'm going to save a kid, but I don't know if I could justifiably say that was the right answer, especially when you have this other guy who was apparently
a paragon of, like, leadership.
Like a potential leader of a revolution, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole lot of what if in there, which doesn't get you anywhere, but, you know, how do you weigh two lives? I mean, does age make the difference, or is what that person's done with their life already make the difference? So that was at least an interesting dynamic. Now, I think she went completely the wrong way about doing that, and that's what pretty much ruined her entire, you know, group, but still, it was interesting.
I remember saying I didn't like her. Still not crazy about her, but in the episode 4, I remember saying I didn't really like her. I thought she was felt like a very Saturday morning villain type character. But I do appreciate that they got rid of her quickly. But I do also like her. I feel like they built her character up a bit better in this episode. Like you said, the whole conversation she had with Pierce, which, by the way, I don't know if you know, but Pierce was the voice actor for Tommy in the video game. Yeah, which is kind of cool. But I very much liked her rationale. I thought it was a very cool scene of her saying, "My brother would say what I'm doing is wrong, and you know, I understand. I should use forgiveness, and you know, be the stronger person or something." But she's like, "That's not who I am. I'm filled with vengeance, basically." And I don't know. Part of me was just like, "Oh, okay, I kind of like you slightly more."
She was very upfront about her motivations the whole time, so at least you could take that at face value, which I guess was admirable. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the way she was just mean the entire time. But then, yet, at the end, there's like when you finally realize, oh, that's the rational for what she's doing. Like you know, like Phoenix said, is it right or wrong at that situation? You know, who's in the wrong in this case? You know, like,
yeah, I think what makes it interesting is, like, so there's that decision, who's right or wrong, but ultimately that's not where I think the what's the way I say this, like, the paragon aspect of justification comes into play. Like, you could argue all day which life was important to save, but I think we could all agree her choice of basically just tunnel visioning in on going after Henry and ignoring everything else around her, you just see the impact that had and how that just destroyed everything, because she ignored the group underneath the hospital or the warehouse or whatever. It caused her entire group to get wiped out because she was tunnel visioned on Henry. So I don't know, at least adds that kind of contrast there. So you could argue the core decision as much as you want, but the reaction to the decision is kind of the big catch. And the other thing, I know you guys haven't played the game, this actually has a pretty big, I don't want to say ramification. It's not really ramification because it's not like it directly impacts this. It's an analog or like a comparative moment for something that happens at the very end of the game, where you kind of, regardless of correct rationale and what the correct choice should have been, you get tunneled vision and you do something based upon how you feel about something. So the fact they kind of introduced that idea now and kind of planting that seed through Kathleen's story, I think is going to pay off in an interesting way in the couple of final episodes. So,
and I also did like how they didn't like totally fixate on the brother, the dead one. It's like, because he's not the important aspect, you know, like yeah, he may have been like the leader of a revolution and an important character, but ultimately to Joel and their story, Joel and Ellie's story, he's not that important. So I like how they did. I just think they could have gone on and talked about, you know, they could have dug deeper into his story and what happened within, what was it, Kansas City or whatever. But like, I don't know. I like that it kind of just.
I think it was smarter they didn't for a couple of years. For one, for that, didn't lose focus. But two, like, what makes a martyr work in a lot of cases is you don't have a lot of justification. You don't know a lot about them, right? They stood for this symbolic thing, and then they were taken out and then sparked a revolution, right? If they had spent the whole episode, like, doing a flashback, and you need to know a lot about the brother, and you can, like, learn, like, his good and bad characteristics, I think that would have lessened the impact and really lessened the choice between him versus Sam, because you have more you're trying to compare against. Leaving him as, like, this idea, this martyr, I think makes that decision a lot grayer, because we don't know anything about the guy. He could have been a terrible dude. We don't really know. So the fact they didn't dig into that and like give you that much detail, I think was really good to kind of keep things neutral for that decision.
Yeah, I just mean like if this was like another show, Kathleen would have lasted like two more. Like if this is Walking Dead, she wouldn't have been dealt with until the end of the season. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, no, I am glad the pace of this was taking her out quick. So jumping ahead to kind of the final couple of moments, is there anything you guys will mention before kind of the big ending of that episode?
I very much. Or sorry, go ahead, Gamer.
No, I thought it was really interesting that you know, because they ignored what was going on underground for so long, that it just kind of everything just kind of happened and then just blew up in everyone's face, and it's like, oh man, well. This is what you get.
Well,
you're ignoring this for so long.
Like what you're saying about what was going on underground, I like that when you look at what happens at the end of the episode. I like that throughout the majority of this episode, they give Ellie a chance, and which one was Henry? Sam was the boy, the younger one. So I like how Sam and Ellie throughout the episode are given an opportunity to kind of be children, to kind of build up a camaraderie and kind of an understanding. And you know, when you think they're gonna go on an adventure,
the best buddies adventuring in the zombie apocalypse,
best friend ever.
I think it's really fun how they created a nice little relationship, and it also made it like interesting how even Joel was able to kind of you see like a softer side of him when he starts. What was it, Henry? When he starts talking to Henry and he gets his story from, you know, his side of the stuff, and why should he trust him for whatever it is that he should do? But then at the end of the day, that he really didn't have a choice. He was like, yeah, well, I guess you're right. You if you know the way out, then, you know, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I also liked how Henry could kind of connect with Joel, because he was like, when he was talking with him, he's like, listen, I could have tried to make my own way out, but I could see you're a parent, and I've seen you with my own eyes, so you know how to protect someone, so I'm gonna trust you to help us get out of here when I could try it myself or something. You know what I mean? So there's some nice connective tissues going on there.
Yeah,
it's almost like seeing like a mirror image of himself, because technically, like they're kind of like almost in the same boat. One's protecting the other and doing what they can to kind of do whatever. Even though, what's up?
No, I was gonna say, I will say, at some point you hear Henry say that someone went underground and cleared out underground. So that's my only thing is like, so did they clear it out or did they not clear it out? Because when you see what happens towards the end of the episode,
so there's a little more to the underground in the game. There, I don't think there was much in the way of their.
Maybe he said they only went underground and cleared that one section. You know, that's what I'm guessing. Is whoever went underground before cleared out maybe a small snippet and.
So I'll draw a few blanks here because it's been a while since I played the game. If my recollection is correct, there actually was no like zombies underneath, or at least nothing like major. That wasn't a thing. But once again, there wasn't this whole faction they were trying to sneak away. It was just a whole different thing. But the point was, during this, I think a Fedra agent was going underground, but to assist these
the people,
refugees who were kind of living down there. Like they had like. And this might have been like prior to Fedra, but someone would go down there and basically take care of kids and take care of, you know, the little group that had been living underground as a kind of like, you know, their safe haven. And that story actually ends pretty tragic in the game. Like it's all done through like environmental storytelling, which I won't get into here, but they had a lot of nice cues to it throughout that whole little subway underground section. So I don't know.
And I did bring up something I'm seeing in my notes. I said early on in episode 5, I almost wonder if they might go the medical issue director with Joel. He seems pretty wary. And, yeah.
Medical issue?
Yeah, I said I almost wonder if they go the medical issue direction with Joel. He seems pretty wary, and then the next episode you kind of see where they're going with him.
Medical issue? I'm not following you. What do you mean by medical issue?
I don't think
you didn't see him having his medical breathing.
Oh, you mean like when he had like this little head thing?
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if that's so much a medical thing.
Was that in the game?
Anxiety thing.
Oh.
Well, I
called it a panic attack. I mean, he was having a panic attack pretty much.
He's also like 50-something years old. Like I don't think it's not
he's
a
like 60,
sickness.
Almost 60.
He's old. You need to watch little behind-the-scenes stuff at the end of the episodes because they talked about some of that.
Oh, I didn't. I never watched those.
Yeah, they explained like really why he was like kind of short of breath. Like part of it's an anxiety thing, fear of losing Ellie. Like there's a bunch of things they were at least going for, but not medical issue from what I can tell. Now it's not a part of the game. If they end up going that route, I mean, I don't know if that'll be a good or bad thing. I don't think that's necessary, but we'll see.
And I do think something I saw someone mention on a podcast just the other day is that it very much seems as though they're trying to cushion the blow for things that may happen in from the second game. Because from what I understand in the first game, Joel was very good about using fake names, not telling people about their names, and so far in this first handful of episodes, you definitely see Joel is more open to kind of just willy-nilly telling people their names or where they're going. And I've seen some people make the argument that they're deliberately trying to make him a little less cautious for things in the next game. Because I remember a lot of people were saying that in the next game it's quite startling how easy he kind of gives himself up at the beginning of that game. Because people say, well, again, I haven't finished the first game, but most people say he was very, very cautious about like telling people who they were, what their plans were, where they were going. I don't know. I'm leaning on you. You're the one that's played him.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think back to like when I played it, if that really struck me. I mean, maybe a little bit. That was never something that really jumped out as something very odd to me. Let's hold on to that until we get to season 2.
Yeah, I don't want to. That's why I'm trying not to say too much. But.
That's fair. All right, so anyway, jumping to the end of it. So, I mean, I think we could all agree that the way it played out was pretty heart-wrenching, right?
I liked that.
Oh, man, we saw it twice.
Did you? Nice.
I had to, because even my wife was like, we need to see that part again. I'm like, what? And she goes, we need to rewind it. I'm like, okay. And we watched it. I was like, man, this sucks. It was good.
I liked Ellie's like childish innocence of her somehow thinking that putting her bloody hand on the foot, it's stupid. But I guess when you're trying to help somebody, I don't know. It is kind of stupid that in this world that she's been in for so long, she wouldn't have at least told Joel, hey,
she should have told.
Hey,
yeah.
This guy's been.
She's a kid, so it's naive, but That, I mean, don't get me wrong, the show played out very well and the ending was good. I'm not trying to harp that it had to be a different way.
She should have
The game
said
did it
something.
differently.
Yeah.
And I prefer the way the game did it. So in the game, Sam did not reveal to Ellie that he had been bit. He had either kept it to himself or didn't realize it, what have you. And they just go to sleep, and the next day wakes up and Sam's crazy. And the whole thing just plays out in an instance where the exact way she got attacked at the beginning, they stumble out, brother has to shoot him, etc. So the end result was the same, but you didn't have that moment where Ellie tried to naively help him or cure him. Like, I get what maybe they're trying to do there, make Ellie feel like that she has some role in this or some agency, or she's trying to find her purpose or worth. Like, if that's what they're going for, I get that. I think it made her character a lot dumber. I mean, she's a kid, and Ellie does make mistakes in the game too, but that was just a big one. Not to mention that to Joel or anything. I mean, I guess you probably was thinking, okay, well, Joel's just going to shoot the kid then. That's not what she wants to see happen, but to not take any precautions and just assume that her blood was magic seems really, really off to me. I don't know. And there was just something about that moment that, I don't know, I missed the surprise. Because, like, here's the thing. We knew that Ellie was naive, but we also, at least I do, I watched the game, but I'm assuming that you guys would feel the same way. After you saw that he had been bit, you knew he was turning, right? Did you guys have any thought that all of a sudden her blood was going to be magic and he was going to be saved?
No,
absolutely not.
So I feel like that steals a little bit of that surprise or that moment, that shock. Like, you already saw it coming, and then it's kind of this slow, like, oh no kind of moment. In the game, though, it's just like, holy crap. Like, this thing just happens all of a sudden. You had no idea. You truly thought everything was perfect and hunky-dory, and then in a split second, everything's terrible.
So when I decide to play the game, you think this is kind of a ruining for that moment when I play the actual game?
Oh, this show is going to ruin the game for you.
Yeah.
Like, it is going to. Like, the show is different than the game, but the big plot points are happening. So, like, all the good stuff in the game is going to be spoiled. I don't think that means that you can't enjoy the game. Like, the game's it still feels different than the show, and they do some things different. Like, there's still environmental storytelling this show just doesn't have time to do that's in the game. So you should definitely still play the game. But yeah, these moments are going to be lost on you. But yeah, I guess that's my only issue about this ending. I really felt like the shock that you get from the game, I don't know, it hit me in the gut a lot more than this. And maybe it's because I already knew it was coming, and that just kind of reframed things already for me. But I don't know, I just didn't like that he showed it to her and the way that played out. It just kind of sucked the air out of me a little bit, instead of just like punching me in the stomach and just, you know, being caught off guard.
I actually really like the similarities between kind of Kathleen and Henry, where yeah, he did everything for his brother, but but when she lost her brother, you know, things have kind of ruined her. And then basically the similarity is, like, he lost his brother and he couldn't kind of continue on. So, like, they seemed as though they weren't, like, on similar footing, but the entire time they're basically just kind of walking the same path, pretty much, I guess. Because his whole thing was, like, what was it, Endure and Survive, which is the name of the episode. So there is kind of, like, he was like, yeah, endure and survive, but once he lost his brother, it's like he couldn't, you know, that's not all there is, you know, just enduring and surviving.
Well, I mean, it's not that he just lost his brother. He had to kill his brother.
Yeah.
Like,
well, exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
he had to shoot him, and he did it he just did it. He didn't think.
Yeah, it was just, and that was like when he actually thought about it. So I mean, I know that's a brotherly relationship, but you think about that like your child or something. Like, that's probably the closest thing I could even think of. Like, what if you had to do that to someone like your child?
Well, I think that's why they named that episode.
I don't think I could go on.
I think that's why they named the episode that, is because, like,
you have to put up with terrible things to survive.
And he wasn't willing to when it came to, like, his brother, you know, like, that was, like, the one thing. And I guess you could say the same for Kathleen. Like, she was willing to throw herself, you know.
Kathleen, though, I think wanted to survive. I don't think she was trying to get herself killed. She was certainly not taking rational choices to ensure her survival by any means, but
she wanted to get vengeance the entire time. That's all. That was her entire motive.
I get what you're saying, though. I mean, I understand. I don't want to say this. I get what you're saying that he could not endure. I don't really think that's it though. Like that happens so fast. Like it's less of an endurance thing. It's just like an overwhelming thing. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong in that kind of framing of it, but that I don't know. I don't know if that quite translates the way I'm looking at it.
From what it seemed like, when he did it, he didn't even know what he was doing. He was like, "Wait, what did I do? What happened? What's this? Oh my god!"
It's almost like he wasn't given time to endure. Like so many things has happened, and then when his brain triggered just what happened and what he did, that was just
couldn't deal with it. That was it.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Like, yeah.
So we didn't actually.
That was a crazy ending.
We didn't actually talk about the big exciting moment. Just before that,
freaking out, yeah. Well, we kind of did, just not explicitly.
Bloater things.
Yeah, the bloaters coming out.
Yeah,
I think it was a very easy on the eyes scene, but I think there were a lot of kind of dumb things kind of going on there. I don't know. What do you guys agree? You don't agree?
What do you mean?
Like just kind of, or let me swear, I'm too busy messing around here. Just like. I don't know, like Joel's a perfect shot with a sniper rifle. Ellie's running in between like 100 zombies.
Yeah, there's some convenience there.
There's a lot of like, and then she gets stuck in the car with the thing, and it gets out somehow, and it's like, ultimately it was a good episode. So ultimately, it's whatever for me. But
I don't think you're wrong. I think what maybe kind of lessened that for me is in the game you play as Joel, and he's as good of a shot as you want him to be, right? So like when I played Joel, I was a pretty good shot. So it didn't really seem so out of place that Joel was hitting all the headshots. I'm like, I feel like I hit most of the headshots when I played the game. It felt gamey. I will say that it felt a little gamey, where you've got the person spotting you while your other character like escorts through a section. So I get the contrivance there, the convenience. I don't think it was terrible. I mean, there was a lot of commotion. Ellie's used to dipping and dodging some zombies, so I don't know. I don't disagree with you, but definitely did not detract for me.
It was still fun. It at least was fun to watch.
And we haven't had any big zombie moments in a while in this show. Like this show has been pretty tame on the zombie aspect of the show, which to be fair, the game wasn't even super zombie-ish all the time. It definitely had a lot of slow moments. It was more raider fights than anything else. So I liked it. It was a nice change of pace, and it definitely moved things along. It was a nice way to get rid of Kathleen without a whole bunch of dragging on, and move the story to where it needed to be. So I liked it.
Yeah, and I also like that at the end you see all the clickers and bloaters. They go running off in the opposite direction, and they're very clearly running towards the town. So it's
clearing out the town.
That town is
so Kathleen doomed the entire town.
Yeah, pretty much. She woke up the horde pretty much.
You awaken the hive.
So, gosh, is there anything about episode 5? I don't think
That's pretty much it. The only other thing I'm just curious about, and I don't know if this is going to make any difference for you guys not playing the game. In the game, Sam was not deaf.
I heard about that, yeah.
That was something that they mentioned at the end when you watch it. That was a choice that they made.
Yeah.
Because I guess they just wanted to try something with that. I forgot.
I think they wanted to make it seem like Sam was more dependent on Henry, which okay. I don't. I mean, I liked it. I didn't think it.
Worked well.
Yeah, I didn't think it detracted from anything. It did add a different dynamic to the character. I don't think really hurt anything.
It almost made him seem a little more helpless, which is nice, I guess.
Yeah, he was pretty helpless in the game, though. I mean, you got this kid. He was like 6, 7, something like that. He was going to be helpless and depending on Henry regardless. So, I don't know. I don't dislike it. I was curious if you guys had any thoughts about that at all.
Thought it was fun.
Yeah, it didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, I thought it was really interesting that they chose that route.
I thought it did make me pay a lot more attention to when Sam decided to communicate anything, like because you had to stop, slow down, he had to write it out, and it was this moment where there was like it really slowed down the interactions with him and kind of made him a little more succinct at the same time, which that was kind of nice. And you then did have that nice or gut-wrenching moment at the end where she writes "I'm sorry" on his pad and lays it by. So that's a moment that was kind of created because of that change, which I think had some impact.
No. And I guess just the last thing is I did see in like one of the post video things is they did say that like in that scene where all the bloaters and zombies are coming out of the ground, apparently they said most of those were like actual people in actual costumes, and it's like I don't know.
Did
man.
you see the behind the scenes? Because they showed them.
No, I know they showed them, but when you actually watch it, most of it looks like CGI. That was just
They
from the
definitely
eye.
sped up stuff, and there is some
Okay.
post-production there, but because I remember watching like the reel where they were showing them climbing out of the hole or whatever,
They just speed it up.
and then when
Okay.
you saw them, they were a lot faster. So clearly there was some editing done there, some post-production, but I think a lot of it was people. I'm not saying they didn't have some
they showed
CG
video
clickers in there
of
somewhere.
the bloater guy getting into costume, but man, when you watched it live, it just looked like CGI. So I don't know, possibly could have been wasted. I don't know.
I don't know if it was CGI. Here's the thing: even if it was CGI, the whole thing read really good to me. Nothing about it looked overly fakey. Like I didn't say like, oh, that's definitely a CGI whatever. Like it all looked good to me. So even if it had been CGI, I'd still be praising it for being excellent CGI. The fact that it has a human or practical effect or element to it, I think almost encourages like, or should state like, you know what, they should do that more often. It should be less.
And ultimately,
CGI.
I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, it was fun to watch, so whatever. It's probably not a point.
If it was CGI, it was a heck of a lot better than Ant-Man that we just saw.
Oh boy.
We won't mention his name.
MODOK. I already did it.
It's not
All right.
MODOK. It's Darren.
Alright, so episode 6.
Episode 6. Yeah.
Let's go on.
Yeah. So moving on. This one I felt like wasn't as good as the previous one. This one wasn't bad. I still enjoyed this one, but
It was slower.
it was much slower. There's much more communication. Boo. Nobody likes dialogue.
This episode, though, had what many who play the game would argue is like one of the biggest moments in the whole game. So that moment where Joel almost leaves Ellie, like that's a big moment
Yeah.
in the game.
Mhm.
Like, and it hits. I'll tell you, it hit differently in the game than it did in the show. I'm not even too sure why. I almost feel like I need to go back and play the game to understand the context there. But yeah, that moment. I mean, it was still done very well in the show, but it hit a little differently. Maybe because I knew it was coming. I don't know. I felt like they crammed a lot into this episode. Like, it was slower, but this was like... I was worried that they weren't going to be able to finish the whole game in one season. They crammed like 2 or 3 major things into this one episode. Like, in the game, they stretched out the whole Tommy's Village thing a lot longer, where I think there was like, you had to do a side section where you had to get like a generator up and running, if I recall, and you had to go to the dam and do all this other nonsense. So they skipped all that completely. They just kind of hit on, hey, we found Tommy, and then they moved on to the university, which that was a much bigger thing too in the game. There was a lot more time spent there. So they hit like 2 or 3 big plot points to really kind of progress the story along, which I thought they handled pretty well for squeezing in a lot of stuff into this one episode to set up the last couple of episodes.
If that was the case, then man, I would have never noticed it, because there was a lot going on, but I didn't know it was that many plot points involved from the game.
And to be fair, a lot of it was like probably gameplay elements more than anything else. Like the stuff we had to go to the dam generator stuff, it was very gamey. Oh no, we got raiders popping out behind the generator. Take them out, boom, 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 kind of thing. So it wasn't like an interesting, plot development necessarily. So I definitely see why they cut that. I guess it didn't really cross my mind that would have got cut, but they cut other gameplay like elements in this show already. So that was a good choice. And the fact they made it all the way to the end of the university, I think is big. 'Cause I think now there's enough room they can probably finish off this show within one season. So
I love the very beginning episode where they're talking to that fun couple. They're living in the cabin. I like that couple. They were very entertaining. They're kind of just living their best life.
Indian, the Native American couple, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Just
that was
just
interesting.
living life out there.
Dude, the lady is hilarious.
She was funny.
You kidding
he's
me?
like,
She was
did you
a-
make
she's
them
the
breakfast
biggest-
or something? She's like, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
he's-
she was awesome.
There's also a girl.
Mhm.
Another thing I had here is I very much appreciate. It's very like a good character building aspect of Joel. Is I love his constant futile attempts to shelter Ellie from certain things. Like there's a specific part in here where she asks to take a swig of his alcohol, and he's like, "No, you can't." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, He always does something like that, and then he's like, "Oh, well, I live in a terrible world. Sure, go ahead." You know what I mean?
Yeah, we gotta say, and I would imagine, like, even though it's been 20 years, he was raised in, our regular society kind of thing. So, like, a kid drinking's like this terrible thing, and now you're looking at this perspective like, what does it matter anymore? So,
he does that a lot, where he's like, "You shouldn't be doing this," and then he thinks, and he's like, "Well, what the heck?"
Well, because he got put back into dad mode, and that's the whole point. Like, he's no longer just surviving this apocalypse; he's back to being a father. So all those old tropes of how he used to raise his daughter back, 20 years ago,
they don't apply.
Are flooding back, and he's like, "I gotta protect this girl. All the things I tried to protect my girl from doing, I'm trying to help this girl not do." And he's slowly realizing that's not his daughter, but at the same time taking her on as kind of another surrogate daughter. So,
and that very much fits into why he was like wanting to leave her too, because he's like, I failed, like what makes her think I'm gonna succeed here, like because I failed with Sarah, and then I failed with what's his girlfriend's name, Tess. Yeah
Well, he failed, but it's also very much he's protecting himself, right? Like, he doesn't want to go through the heartache of losing her again. So if he can just step away from it, it's almost less about protecting her. I think, I'm sure that's part of it. He doesn't think he's good enough, but he doesn't think he can withstand seeing her get killed, which he probably couldn't. I mean, to be fair, as a father, like, I can't imagine losing my daughter, and to experience that event twice, I can't see how you go on after that. So,
and then it also makes sense that him and Tommy have that like really emotional scene, because he talks about how he froze again when they were stopped by Tommy's comrades outside of the building or the encampment or whatever. And that was a really interesting like back and forth between him and Tommy, where they were talking about Tommy being his like pseudo paradise pretty much, and he's talking about how like, well, life ended for, or life what does he say? It's life stopped.
Life ended for you.
It stopped for you,
stop for me.
Yeah, pretty much. So I don't know, very emotional. I think Pedro Pascal is just so good.
He's a great Joel. I mean, I wasn't too nervous about it.
I find that surprising. I knew he was good, but like, he's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any hesitations when I heard they cast him. Like, you take a moment just to kind of try to picture him, but he's done such a good job in everything I've seen him in. And it's been very diverse roles already that, I don't know. And then when I saw him dressed up like Joel, I'm like, yep, that's going to work. So, I'm trying to think if there's anything else really big about, like, this episode. I don't think there's anything too, like, jarring or crazy that happened.
Ellie learning about Sarah for me was kind of an interesting event.
That was another big one. Yeah,
Ellie kind of, because she's like, "Oh, I saw your kids' names up on the wall," and Tommy's wife is like, "Oh yeah, that's Sarah, Joe's daughter or something." She's like, "Oh, you didn't know about that."
Yeah,
definitely interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why that moment, like, in the game, is such a big deal, because you're waiting for that the whole time of the game, right? For Ellie to realize she's kind of like Joel's new daughter, and for that to click to realize that Joel had a daughter and lost the daughter, like, and then the whole kind of reaction they have in the bedroom where she tries to talk about his daughter, he's like, "Nope, not doing that." So yeah, it definitely, I think, added a lot of emotional gut punch to that moment, and they did it well. I think the game still hit a little better, maybe just because it was the first time that moment happened for me, but it was still handled really good here in the show.
And I also find it interesting. There's like I've only got a few. I had much less notes on this episode. Like, don't get me wrong, there was still super impactful stuff, but
slower.
They're slower. I also liked how Ellie's going to the movies. Doing something she's probably never done in her life, but still she would rather be over snooping in on Joel and Tommy, trying to get the lowdown on what's going on over there. Yeah. I mean, feel free to step in. I'm just reading off all my notes that I had that I thought was interesting. I love the scene of them walking, and who was it? Somebody blurted out as they were kind of telling them how the settlement worked. They're like, "Oh yeah, like communists or something," and someone's like, "No," and then they're like, "Yeah, I guess." I thought it was funny. And the only thing I had left was I loved how quickly Ellie chose Joel when he was like, "All right, I'm going to give you the option. You go with me," and she's like, "Okay." Throws the bag at him. She's like, "All right, I'm going with you." Which,
well, I mean,
I get the.
That's not wrong.
It is kind of wrong though. Like, I mean, I get it. You like Joel, but the safest place would be in the encampment with 100, 200 people. I mean,
Well, she was never going to stay though. That was never the option.
Oh, okay.
The option was either Joel's going to take you to the Firefly camp, or Tommy's going to take you to the Firefly camp. Tommy was about to take her.
Yeah, obviously she chose him because she's been traveling with him the entire time. She trusts him.
I get that decision. I get that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, like, would you trust a random stranger even though it's the guy's brother? Like, really? Like, the guy doesn't want to go anyway. Like, he even said it. He's like, I have a family here. I'm not going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And Joel just took that the wrong way, thinking that that's like, oh, well, I don't want to do it.
I get it. I totally took it as though, like, you either go with our journey ends here and you stay here and be safe, and Joel's going to leave her. I don't know. I took it the wrong way.
Fair enough.
She seems to like that crazy ass adventure.
So you don't have to say it, but do they say where the technological group left to or whatever? Because they ditched the school, or is that kind of a drop?
They find them.
Does what I think happen with that, or well, I guess I'll get my answers.
I think yes. But yeah, we're not quite there. The only other thing I was kind of then waiting for in this game, they did a little, or not a game of the show, they did a little different in the game. So I knew Joel gets like jacked up at the end of the at that episode, at the end of the university, and I was curious how they were going to do it, because in the game it's more brutal than what happened in this. I mean, I appreciate how they did it in this. I think it probably played better, where he got stabbed with the end of the baseball bat. In the game, there was like this huge firefight inside of the university, and Joel's like up on like the second floor, like shooting out the front door, and then he slips or gets knocked down, falls to his glass banister, and then lands on a rebar, just like sticking right up and like impales him right through the back. So like I thought he was done in the game. Like it looked so much worse than anything he could recover from, and then it cuts to Ellie trying to nurse him back to health afterwards. So I think this is more realistic. I don't know how they could have played the whole fall off a 2-story building into a rebar and make that work out well, but I was curious. I was interested how they're going to play it out, and I think they did. Well,
at least the baseball bat doesn't go completely all the way through him. That's
it's more it was all the way,
really
and then like I had to think like, I'm trying to remember in the game. I think they do get him off the rebar. Man, I'm trying to recall now. It was a lot more intense in the game and a little more traumatic. But I like the way they did it here. Like, it still has the same kind of impact. Like, clearly Joel's messed up now, but I think where this goes, it's a little more realistic. That he recovers. Spoiler, but
well, yeah, of course.
But yeah, I mean, that was episode 6. I think someone had mentioned there's 9 episodes. I don't know if it was somebody here.
That was our last podcast episode. Someone in our chat said that.
And prior to watching these last few episodes, I'm like, there's no way they can get through this game in 9 episodes. I think they can do it now. I can only think of 3 big things that have to happen. And there's 3 more episodes. So assuming at least one of those is probably... Yeah. So I think they're on course pretty much to finish up the first season, which... that makes it interesting jumping ahead, because they already greenlit season 2. Initially, I was curious if season 2 would just be like the second half of the first game, but clearly season 2 is going to be part 2 of the game, and that's going to bring with it a lot of drama. So now I'm a lot more intrigued to think about how that's going to play out. Like, were you in the realm of kind of keeping an eye on any of that nonsense going on, Metal, when like Last of Us Part 2 dropped and all the stuff with Abby and blah 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 was going on?
I was all about it.
I know Chaz was.
I wasn't aware.
All right, that's probably good then. So
yeah,
keep it that way, because I want to know your kind of unspoiled perspective when the show starts, because man, people had some very toxic takes to Last of Us Part 2. I did not take that same stance. I think, Chaz, you were a little more negative about it watching your Let's Play, but we don't have to dig too much into it now. I know that's looking.
I didn't think it was. Again, the internet. I didn't think it was terrible, but I don't know. I didn't think it was very good. It was like middling. I was just like, that's it. I guess it's kind of interesting what they're doing. Yeah, we don't have to get far into it.
Well, I'm just saying, knowing now that is definitely where season 2's got to go, I'm interested more so than, because I think I was gonna be really disappointed if this first season just ended midway through the first game and I had to wait a whole another season just to see the ending of the first game.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still not interested if that's where they're gonna go. Like, I didn't think it was that good. I mean, it was.
I think they could play it well. I don't know. There is the part two is a much bigger game, and not necessarily in a good way. So there's a lot of bloat. So either A, they split it into season 2 and a season 3, because technically part 2, the game, is, I'd say, 2 seasons worth of stuff.
It didn't even end. It didn't even end. Like, it kind of left a cliffhanger.
Yeah, because there's gonna be a Last of Us part 3. Like, there's another end to this, but anyway, we're going way down a rabbit hole that we don't need to go to yet. Both episodes were good. This show has turned out really well. Like, I would say there's very few other video game adaptions of anything that have been this true to the source material, but also taken the right changes where needed. To be fair, I mean, I don't want to say they had an easy job, but Last of Us was already a movie. Like, before they ever tried to translate to a show or anything, the game was a cinematic, episodic movie, essentially, as you played through it. So they already had good bones there to translate over, but they're sticking the landing, from what I can tell.
What I like in a good TV show is if each episode feels weighted, and it feels like it has a purpose. And so far, I would say there may be one mediocre episode so far, and I like that most of the episodes feel most of the episodes feel as though there's a purpose, which is nice.
Yeah.
It is still very
there
early.
hasn't been much bloat. Like, what would you say is the mediocre episode? The last one where Kathleen was introduced?
It would be between that or maybe episode 2. I would say that one. I would say probably 5.
What happened in 2 again?
2 was the Tess episode.
Oh, well, that was a big deal, though.
That was a good one.
I would say episode 5 is probably the one that was just like, I wasn't super digging it, but I liked how it concluded.
5, the one with Will and Henry? No, I keep saying Will. Goodness, Henry and Sam.
Sam and Henry. Yes, that episode for me was kind of, it was still good. I still liked it.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought every episode so far has been really well spaced out. Like,
again, I'm not saying there's been a bad.
To keep you going.
I'm not saying there's been a bad episode. I mean, there hasn't.
If anything, which is the one that was the shortest episode?
That was 2.
Really,
2 was the.
That was 2.
Yeah, that was.
That one left me at a cliffhanger, but that wasn't a bad episode at all. Like,
no, I agree.
I like episode 3 for me was good. I just think that one was the most tame out of all of them.
I'm curious if 2 would have felt different, because episode 1 was like extended, right? They had the whole flashback stuff, or kind of the origin or start of the whatnot, and then they had a section where they were also in the apocalypse already. Like, I'm curious if 2 would have landed different if episode 1 would have ended at Sarah's death. Like, it went all the way up to that point, and then episode 2 started with Joel 20 years in the future.
Would have been a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Because that would have balanced the episodes time-wise a little bit better. I'm curious if maybe that was their original thought, and then they felt like they needed to add more to the first one to make it more impactful. I don't know. Episode 1, I tell you, even though I really liked for obvious reasons, it did feel long, and I feel like it dragged a little bit, especially towards the end. So I'm curious if maybe going back, if that would have been a better direction, maybe. Like,
I really
cut
enjoyed
it off
episode
right at
1. I think it's one of my more favorite episodes.
I expected all the episodes to be just as long as that one, and it wasn't.
I'm curious if that would have made episode 2 feel better to you, because it would have had a lot more meat then that you kind of got at the end of episode 1.
Oh, no. I'm getting my episodes wrong. I think 4 is the one I think I didn't like. The one that was the intro to Kathleen, Sam, and Henry. That's 4. So 4 and 2 are the weaker ones, I thought. But definitely the better ones to me are 1, 3, and 5. Those are probably
all the odd numbers, huh?
Oh, I guess so, yeah. Who's the director? Who's the director of each episode? I bet you.
Well, that just means the next episode you're going to love, because it's an odd. So.
Ooh.
That was dumb.
It really, all 3 of these next episodes,
probably super important.
Going to happen. One. Yeah. I mean, depending where they stop the next one might be a little slow. The one after that's big. The one after that's really big. So there's a lot to cover and a lot of good, well, I say good stuff. Very tragic, heartbreaking stuff upcoming. But, that's what makes good television, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alrighty, everyone. Well, that was our chat for the newest 2 episodes of The Last of Us. Feel free next episode, and we, of course, will talk about so it means 7, 8, and then we'll have 1 episode for the,
big finale.
Yeah, big finale to talk about.
Maybe we can try to do that one because that one's going to come a little quicker. We'd have to wait an extra week after the finale to talk about it.
We could try and do the same thing we did with Ant-Man, maybe.
Yeah, either there's a focused episode on that or a little bit quicker. We'll see. What week is that going to put us at? What's like the calendar? I'm trying to look ahead. I am out of town a couple of weeks. Seeing that.
So that would be 26th. Yeah. That would
the 12th, right? Would be the last episode. The 12th.
Yes.
I might be able to do it. I think I'm making that work. So if we do it like right after, if I do that Monday 13th?
Or Tuesday.
I guess I'll be down there. So.
Oh, you will?
I gotta show.
We could do a live.
Oh, we could do a live.
Together.
Yeah, a live chat.
I got a show on the 11th. So, yeah, I'll be hanging on. So
that works. We can do an in-person chat on it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, down in the comments, of course, we'd like to hear what you guys thought about the last 2 episodes. What have you thought about the show? Any questions you might have. We'd love to hear how excited you are for the last 3 episodes. That was this week's EnteR ChazmaN podcast. That was episode 29. We're one away from 30. Next one will be the big 3-0.